At the dawn of the nuclear age, everybody was busy trying to get a foothold in the nuclear field. Fission weapons are commonly called atomic bombs. Nuclear weapons produce enormous explosive energy, and their significance may best be appreciated by the coining of the word kiloton, 100,000 tons, and megaton, 1 million tons, to explain their blast energy in equivalent weights of the traditional chemical explosive TNT. For instance, the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima, Japan in 1945 contained only about 64 kilograms, 140 pounds of highly enriched uranium, released energy equaling about 15 kilotons of chemical explosive. The blast immediately produced a robust blast wave, enormous amounts of heat, and lethal radiation. Around the world, several nations have given up the possession and manufacture of nuclear weapons. Among them are South Africa, Belarus, Kazakhstan, and Ukraine. Each nation has its reasons for abandoning the development of atomic weapons. But in this video, we're going to focus on one: South Africa. Why did South Africa plan to build nukes? How did it build them? And why did it decide to give them up? The answers are largely distinct, although they will hold some lessons in the longer term for nuclear weapon development on the Korean Peninsula and elsewhere. Nuclear production in South Africa began in the 1950s, when South Africa collaborated with the US under the Atoms for Peace program to develop a nuclear research reactor, and later acknowledged completing 6 nuclear missiles. But with the apartheid-era government under serious international pressure, it became the first country to voluntarily hand over its nuclear program. Pretoria destroyed the bombs before even admitting that they had existed. South Africa became the first state in the world to voluntarily hand over their self-developed nuclear weapons. Safari 1 was delivered in 1965, alongside uranium fuel and deuterium oxide supplied by the US. South Africa was ready to move away from its reliance on US uranium with the discovery of uranium deposits that allowed the country to mine ore domestically. Furthermore, sometime in the 1970s, it's thought that South Africa began to collaborate with France and Israel to develop nuclear weapons. In 1977, the US was alerted by the Soviet Union to preparations for weapons testing by South Africa in the Kalahari Desert. Under pressure from Western nations, South Africa packed up the test site. The nuclear weapons program continued until 1989, at which point 6 completed weapons and 1 weapon still in production were dismantled. South Africa was concerned about the consequences of communism spreading throughout the African continent and the restoration of South African credibility in ending the country's nuclear weapons program. Therefore, South Africa signed the Treaty of Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons in 1991, joined the Nuclear Suppliers Group in 1995, and became a founding member of the African Nuclear Weapon Free Zone Treaty of 1996, and signed the Great Nuclear Test Ban Treaty in 1996. South Africa had traditionally, with good reason, viewed the US as an ally in the effort to contain the spread of communism in southern Africa. But that relationship was changing. South Africa was backing anti-communist rebels in Angola, but as public concern was growing within the US over the CIA's hidden activities abroad, the US Congress voted in 1976 to ban US aid to any armed faction in the conflict, to South Africa's disappointment. Then, in 1977, the UN Security Council, including the US, unanimously voted to impose an arms embargo on South Africa. In this case, though, the story has a happy ending. In 1989, South Africa became the first, and at that point the only country, to have developed its own nuclear weapons and then dismantled them. In 1989, Botha was replaced by President F.W. de Klerk. As he would later write, de Klerk quickly took steps meant to enhance South Africa's relations with the world. The first was to release Mandela, and the second was to dismantle our nuclear weapons and accede to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. South Africa acceded to the treaty in 1991, and de Klerk publicly acknowledged the existence of the program for the first time in a speech in 1993. In 1993, he was defeated by Mandela in the country's first multiracial election. That very same year, the International Nuclear Energy Agency certified that South Africa's nuclear weapons program had been dismantled. South Africa's case offers a more hopeful narrative. It gave up weapons, alongside dismantling the racist apartheid system, as a way of once more becoming a member of excellent standing in the international community. The region, and therefore the world, are undoubtedly safer due to the choices made in the 1990s to relinquish South Africa's nuclear program. Moreover, the dismantling of the relatively small program provided a template for a way other nuclear powers could go about eliminating their own programs. However, with the exception of the Soviet successor states, which faced dramatically different constraints, no other states have yet followed South Africa's example. With the apparent increase in global tensions over the past few years, it seems unlikely that anyone will join South Africa in the post-nuclear club anytime soon.